And we are live. Welcome back, everybody. Let's jump straight into it. I want to show this with you because this is crazy. This basically is comparing how much the spot ETFs are buying with the supply that's available in Bitcoin. But remember, the spot ETF is basically just a very simple way for institutions. So those are going to be companies, asset managers with a lot of capital, as well as individuals to go ahead and buy Bitcoin on the stock market. So it's very accessible to them. It's in a familiar setting. It's got the regulatory framework that they like to see that makes them comfortable. And they can do it in the context of all their rules within their organization. And we have companies like BlackRock, companies like Fidelity, ARK, who have gone ahead and basically offered their spot ETFs on the market. And anyone in the jurisdictions that offer that ETF, so the US, Brazil, they go ahead and buy Bitcoin on the stock market, bypassing the need for crypto exchanges, wallets, and all the issues that come about with storage, etc. Now, the BlackRock ETF, IBIT, has been the best performing, well, in terms of quantity, in terms of volume, in terms of inflows, right? So it's the most popular by far of all of the spot ETFs. And we have seen BlackRock, through their ETF, IBIT, buying massive quantities of Bitcoin, okay? Astronomical amounts of Bitcoin. And not just one day, and then they're quiet the next day. They've been buying it up every single day. If you actually look at the numbers, it's mind-blowing, okay? So just yesterday, which was 38 days after launch, 4,200 Bitcoin. The day before that, 12,600 Bitcoin. The day before that, 6,200. So they're buying Bitcoin in the multiple thousands every single day. Huge amounts of Bitcoin that they are purchasing. And they're purchasing this because they have massive demand. So tons of institutions are pouring loads of capital into the ETF, and some individuals as well, but it's mainly institutions, so mainly asset managers, okay, are pouring money into Bitcoin. Why? Because they want to hold it as part of their portfolio, as part of their investment plan for the long term. All right, so they gain an exposure to Bitcoin now, which is a very smart thing to do. Very smart thing to do. So they're buying it in thousands. But why is this important? Why is this relevant? Well, check this out. This is mind-blowing stuff. If we just take it back to Bitcoin dynamics, okay? There is a new supply of Bitcoin provided into circulation every single day. And that number is 900. So there are 900 Bitcoins that come into circulation every day. So the miners are out there in the background, adding blocks to the blockchain, and they're rewarded via Bitcoin. And then that gets pushed out into circulation. 900 units of Bitcoin every day are being pushed out into circulation. But remember, if there's 900 units coming per day, and BlackRock is out there buying 4,000 yesterday, 12,000 the day before, what you can see here is a massive imbalance between how much Bitcoin is actually coming into circulation, which is 900, and how much is being bought every single day. BlackRock alone is buying 3-4 times the amount of Bitcoin that's coming into circulation. That's wild. And bear in mind, it's not just BlackRock that's buying Bitcoin, right? You've got Fidelity, they're buying chunks. ARK is doing their thing. MicroStrategy as well. They have a massive Bitcoin accumulation system going, so they're buying huge amounts as well. And then you've got everybody else. buying. So you're seeing a massive imbalance between demand and supply. So demand is completely outweighing supply of Bitcoin. So BlackRock alone are doing 3 or 4 times the daily amount of supply themselves, let alone the rest of the market. And just through basic supply and demand, if your supply is reducing, your price is going up. You're creating scarcity value, right? Okay. So that's what's happening right now underneath the surface. And that is absolutely wild. Bitcoin is being bought in massive quantities. And you could just see it here. And remember, when BlackRock is buying, when Fidelity is buying, they're not buying to sell it. They're not buying to sell it straight away. They're not buying to sell it in the near term. So the 4,000 units that they bought yesterday, the 12,000 units they bought the day before, the 6,000 units they bought the day before that, this is sticky. This is a purchase that they've made with the intention of holding it for the long term. Because this spot ETF vehicle isn't a buy and sell vehicle. They're not there to day trade Bitcoin. So effectively what they're doing is they're actually taking Bitcoin off the market. And what's even more crazy is in the middle of next month, the Bitcoin halving event is taking place, and that new circulation of Bitcoin every day of 900 is being cut to 450. And they're still going to be buying massive quantities. And I'll talk a little bit more why they're definitely going to be buying huge quantities. So that 900 is moving to 450, and we know BlackRock alone is doing thousands every single day. All of this is basically creating scarcity around Bitcoin. It is insane. So you got to think, just think longer term. If we think a couple of cycles into the future, it's not going to be 450 new supply. It's going to be 200 and something. And then it's going to be 100 and something. And then it's going to be 50. So you can imagine how the scarcity value around Bitcoin is going to be in the future when the new release of Bitcoin is only 50 a day versus what it is now at 900. So you can see the evolution of this perception of Bitcoin going into the future, right? It's only going to climb. It's only going to get greater from here. Insane numbers right now. So there was a bit of speculation that Tesla is buying Bitcoin, is adding to their existing collection of Bitcoins. Now, first of all, Tesla did a terrible job of buying Bitcoin, because what it is, they bought it, they sold some. If they literally just held all their Bitcoin, they would have over $1 billion in profits from that purchase alone that they made a couple of years ago, but they don't. Anyway, there is this blockchain analytics company that is said to have gone ahead and located the wallets of Tesla, and there might be an increase in the amount of Bitcoin that they're holding by a couple of thousand units. Now, this is just speculation, it's not confirmed, but even if it was true, it's an insignificant event. Because 2,000 Bitcoins in the grand scheme of things is nothing. We know that yesterday BlackRock bought up 4,000 units themselves alone in a day. So if Tesla's going to be adding 2,000 in, over whatever period of time, it's not significant at all. If we saw Tesla adding 50,000 units, now we're talking, now this is interesting, now this is something we can get our teeth into. But a small addition of 2,000, even if that is the case, doesn't move the needle. But the greatest takeaway from this is, it's a reminder that we're still in the early stages of companies and governments adding Bitcoin to their balance sheets. There's not many companies out there that have significant amounts of Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Obviously, we know MicroStrategy is the top dog in this, right? They have like 200,000 Bitcoins and they're adding more. They're adding more. They're prepared to buy and increase their position even at these levels. Okay, I shouldn't even say even at these levels, because we know that the Bitcoin price isn't high considering where we're going in the future after the halving event. But even at these levels, based on where prices come from. Nevertheless, not many companies have Bitcoin on their balance sheets. Not many governments have Bitcoin on their balance sheets. Early stages, okay? Early stages. It's going to get to the point in the near future. I do believe when companies start, releasing their earnings in the next quarter or so, you're going to start to see a couple of companies have added Bitcoin to their balance sheets. And that's only going to continue going forward. And once you get new governments adding it, and we know Qatar might be in the runnings for adding Bitcoin to their balance sheet, that's going to be a big move. That's going to be massive, because again, you're reducing supply and you're increasing that public perception, because you're putting a government stamp of approval on Bitcoin as it continues its journey to being that evolution of gold, right? The new digital gold. So Tesla buying Bitcoin is irrelevant, but is a very, very good reminder that still in the very early stages of companies and governments adding Bitcoin to their balance sheets. That in itself is huge, because let's say next cycle we're talking and we have a couple of governments who have added a good few thousand, tens of thousands of units of Bitcoin. More institutions have added Bitcoin. That Bitcoin is taken out of circulation. And bear in mind, then we go into another halving cycle. You can see the increase and the step up in value for Bitcoin based on those situations. So that's something that we're going to see moving forward, something to look forward to as it relates to Bitcoin. But in terms of price, today was a slow moving day, right? But as I said, in the last live stream, we should expect some sideways movement as people sell positions, people jump into positions, we get that counterbalance effect as we move into the halving event taking place next month. We got to have some sideways movement, because we're still a month away from that date. I do expect a break of all-time highs. Price is looking pretty good. We had that liquidity situation just a couple days ago, and price reversed very, very quickly. That's a bullish sign. We're making higher lows and higher highs off the back of that liquidity event, where price dipped below 60,000. All of that is good. All of that is bullish. All of that should lead to higher prices. But we got to have a couple of days between and the next extended move. A couple of days where price just moves sideways, doesn't do too much. That's just typical Bitcoin price action. We do get sideways days, and that's what we're getting today. And we should expect a couple of more days of that. Nevertheless, going into the halving event, in the run up, I do expect us to get there in all-time high territory, but the thought process, the analysis doesn't change. Right before the halving event, I do believe we are going to get another liquidity event, i.e. we are going to get prices dropping and taking out those who are short-term leveraged long traders, or those who are just weak hands, taking them out of their position, get a little bit of sideways action, a little bit of weakness for about a month, and then blast off through 70,000, making its way up towards that 100,000 mark as we get through this year. That is what I expect, and that won't change. Okay, that won't change. The price is just playing out nicely to that very prediction. So that's exactly what I expect to happen over the next month, and then after the halving event through, through summertime and through to the end of the year. Should be very good, very strong for price, because it's based off some very, very good factors for Bitcoin: the ETF, the better perception, government backing, got some big whales in this now, much more limited supply than we had in the previous cycle. All of these things lead to higher prices. It's like the perfect storm for Bitcoin. And we know Powell is going to go ahead and reduce those interest rates at some time this year, probably summer, May, June. That's going to create a higher appetite for risky assets, more volatile assets like Bitcoin. And all of that just leads to greater and greater inflows into Bitcoin. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to how to approach Bitcoin, I find it kind of funny, because a lot of people, they'll say, I'm interested in Bitcoin, sounds good. What they'll go and do is they'll go and put in £50 or $100 into Bitcoin, and then they'll just leave it there. But what they're forgetting is Bitcoin isn't a penny asset anymore. Okay, Bitcoin isn't trading at 50 cents. Bitcoin isn't trading at $2 anymore. So even if you were to go ahead and put in $100, and let's say 5 cycles down the line, Bitcoin's at $1 million, that 100 is going to turn into $1,500. There's no point in doing that. To maximize the return that you make off Bitcoin, you must have an accumulation strategy, okay? You must have an accumulation strategy in place to make the most of what is happening here and what is going to continue to happen over the foreseeable future. If you look at all the greats in the space, look at MicroStrategy. They have an accumulation strategy. They are continuing to buy Bitcoin even at its all-time high levels, and they've been doing that for many, many years. And they're going to continue to do that. That is an accumulation strategy. What Tesla did is not an accumulation strategy. That is not a good move. That's why they missed out on billions. The simplest accumulation strategy you can have is pick a day of the month and just buy Bitcoin every day of that month moving forward. Whether it's £20, whether it's $50, whether it's $100, it doesn't matter. Whatever is in your means, pick a day, 5th of the month, 12th of the month, and buy Bitcoin on that day every single month. Now you have an accumulation strategy. That's an accumulation strategy at its most basic form. Now, yes, you can make that more advanced. A simple way to make that more advanced is, in addition to that, you're buying on those liquidity events like we saw 2 days ago. Market dropped down 12-13%. It was for a short period of time, temporary move. You can also add that markets climbed back, reclaimed all of that loss. That's a 12% increase. If you add that to the basic accumulation, all right, now you've just moved up a gear. Now it's more advanced. So that's just a way to maximize the return on Bitcoin. That's just a way to squeeze more juice out of Bitcoin. That's another simple way. There's many other ways that you can do it, but that's just an example. But the key thing is to have an accumulation strategy in place. If you have an accumulation strategy in place, it's going to put you into position to take big advantage of Bitcoin over the foreseeable future. Okay, if you just go ahead and chuck in 50 or 100, it's useless and it's pointless. A lot of people do that. As a matter of fact, a lot of people are fantastic at putting in 50, £60 or dollars into Bitcoin at the top of the cycle, and then they're amazing at selling it at a 70% drawdown at the bottom of the cycle, right? People are wonderful at that. But if you just have a simple accumulation strategy in place, you cannot go wrong, okay? You're buying as price moves along the cycle. And that's the best way to attack the beast. That's the best way to squeeze as much juice out of Bitcoin as possible. So have an accumulation strategy in place. There's many ways to skin the cat here. Just make sure you skin the cat. That is very important, because you don't want a situation where it's, 2035, you heard all this information about Bitcoin, you didn't act, and you're just feeling massive regret. Your kids are asking you, kids are talking about how their friends' kids have bought Bitcoin, they're rich now, they live a good life, and you listened but you didn't act. You don't want a situation like that. So get an accumulation plan in place, start getting involved, and that's how you make the most of this new digital revolution that is taking place in Bitcoin. And we're still very early on. Okay, a lot of people aren't switched on right now. As a matter of fact, most people are switched off. So if you're switched on, you're better than 99% of people. All right, guys, that's it for today. I will catch you all tomorrow.